Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Gita Mataji. So we start with a quick recap of what we discussed last time. Any devotee would like to help recollect salient points, important points from our last discussions on this particular chapter? Please tag to playlist Prabhu. Yes, Mataji, we'll do this after the session. You please share the link with Rasa Ragini Mataji. She will do the tagging. Hare Krishna. Any devotee would like to help with the recollection of the points from the last discussion? Any point you recollect?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Let me just start by giving one point, Prabhu.
Yes, Murli, Prabhu.
Yes. Last week we discussed about 5th chapter, the second part of the lectures. Now the first lecture, that was day before yesterday, 2 times previous, we saw the discussions were starting with Narad Mahamuni and Srila Vasudeva.
Yes.
And now one of the points Srila Vasudeva was having was that he was not satisfied at the end of doing so much of great work. Yeah. And then he recognized himself. And then when he went to Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva started giving him the defects. Yeah. So he has given 2 defects: insufficient glorification of the Lord, yeah, overemphasis on purusharthas. Yeah.
Yes.
And 2 points which was discussed, and then we continued our discussions on it. I will add this. I'll let others to speak the rest. Prabhuji. Yes.
Very nice, Prabhuji. Especially the recollection of the 2 specific assessments, the specific points from the assessment by Narada Muni of Srila Vyasadev's despondency, insufficient glorification of the Supreme Lord, and the overemphasis on the 4 Purusharthas in his writings. Any other point, any other devotees would like to mention? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Dandos Ananda Pradamataji.
Says that Narada glorifies the Vyasa qualities, that even though, he did not do, but he is very fortunate. He had the perfect vision. He has a truthful life, and he is a well-wisher of all. So Vyasa can think of the qualities of the Lord in trance.
Thank you, Ananda Prada Mataji. Hare Krishna. Ishwari Murari Priya Mataji and Jagadananda Murari Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji.
Here it is said that words, those doesn't scriptures, those doesn't describe about the glories of the Lord, are like a pilgrimage for the crows.
Yes. So Narada Muni gives in one part a very critical analysis of those writings, which in essence don't draw the conclusion towards the Lord's pure devotional service. they simply attract people of the crow-like mentality, just like the crows get attracted to the trash, they get attracted to the garbage. Similarly, materialistic people, they invariably get drawn to what material enjoyment they can try to squeeze out based on the various principles and ways given in the Vedic writings. Yes, thank you, Ishwari Murari Priya Mataji. Any other point any devotees
The
would like
two
to
types of literatures, dead literature and live literature and all. So
Yes, yes, Mataji. Can you explain a bit more?
That is dead literature is, I
Dead
think,
literature
two
is?
types.
Mhm.
Those words which are poetic, beautifully composed,
Yes.
simply attract men who are like prose. Some example you
Right.
gave
Yeah.
in
So,
last time.
so the point is, we are not against a very decorative language. It is fine as long as the conclusion is right.
Yeah.
But Narad Muni mentions even if these literatures are very poetically composed, have been composed in a very decorative
The
language,
devotees like swan cannot
cannot
take pleasure in something.
take pleasure. Yes, if there is no conclusion about devotional service to Lord Krishna, Lord Vasudev, then swan-like devotees don't take pleasure. On the other hand, Narad Muni mentions about those writings where each and every shloka is abadda vatyapi. Abadda means there is some grammatical mistakes and incorrectly composed. As long as it is namani anantascha yasho ankitani. Yeah. As long as it is glorifying the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord, then such literatures, even if they are incorrectly composed, grammatically speaking, the great sages, saints, and great devotees of the Lord, they do relish those literature. They shunvanti, gayanti, grunanti, sadhava. They like to hear those, they like to repeat those, they like to relish those literatures which talk about Yasho Ankitani. They like to talk, which talk about the glories of the Supreme Lord. So these two types of literatures we saw. And then we come to today's part where Narad Muni basically describes in essence the glories of devotional service in terms of there being no harm even if a person begins to follow the path of devotional service and for some XYZ reason is not able to complete it. And he compares those against the persons who are very perfect in following all the given regulations and rules and regulations of the occupational duties, but that occupational duties don't result in devotional service to the Lord. So he compares these two types of persons. One type of persons are who are trying to render devotional service, but this gets stumbled upon and they fall down in between due to immaturity, versus those who are completely perfect in fulfilling the occupational duties. And then he gives the potency of a spiritually surcharged ambience by giving his own, narrating his own past life as the son of a maidservant. So we'll come to that slowly. We'll start with words from our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. Any devotee would like to read through this loudly, clearly, and slowly? Gunashri Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Words from our founder Acharya. Srimad Bhagavatam is the topmost theological science, and therefore it can react on the layman as medicinal doses. Because it contains the transcendental activities of the Lord, there is no difference between the Lord and the literature. The literature is the factual literary incarnation of the Lord. So the layman can hear the narration of the activities of the Lord. Thereby, they are able to associate with the Lord and thus gradually become purified from material diseases. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.15 purport. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. So here, for the hearer, there is no specific material qualification as such has been mentioned. What has been mentioned is the person should simply be willing to give a proper audience, should simply be able to give a proper attentive hearing to this message about Lord Vasudev, Lord Krishna. And Srimad Bhagavatam, based on its own potency, will act as a medicinal dose for such even a common man, to such a layman, even if he has no other material qualifications. But this particular hearing audience to Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned as the factual literary incarnation. That means it is the Supreme Lord Krishna himself in the book form who will act on such contaminated hearts of such even common persons if they give proper oral reception. So we proceed. So next part is, which is the first part of today's discussion, Narad Muni glorifying how even a small attempt made by a devotee in devotional service, by taking conclusions from such literatures which glorify the process of devotional service, that small, incomplete and apparently unsuccessful attempt is even better than the so-called execution of the occupational duties. So we'll go through the verse first. This is very important verse. So we can check if this verse is there in the selected verses for recitation. But Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse in many of his classes. So let's go through the verse first. 1:5:17. Is the text too small? Let me make it big. Please try
Prabhuji,
to repeat.
Prabhuji,
Yes, yes.
it is a part of the verses for memorization. Prabhuji.
It's part. Okay, okay. Thank you, thank you.
1:5:17.
Any devotees who has not spoken or recited would like to recite, please?
Yes, Prabhuji, I can do that.
Ananda Pradha Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Tyakta sadharmam charanambujam hare.
Tyaktva swadharmam
Charanambujam
Charanambujam Hare.
Bhajan abakutha patetato yati.
Bhajan apakvo tapate tato yadi.
Yat kwa va bhadram aputyam.
Yatra kvabam abud amushakim.
Ko vadhato bhajtam swadharmataha.
Kovat apto swadharmataha. Thank you, Mataji. Tyaktva swadharmam charanam bhujam harer. Swadharma means, what does swadharma in general means in Bhagavatam first canto context?
Occupational duty.
Yes, very nice. Who answered?
Purusharthas.
Yeah, occupational duties which are assigned to us as part of the Varnashram, as part of the social and spiritual divisions. So that is considered as something what we are supposed to do invariably across any condition of life. Even if one gives up those occupational duties in order to surrender oneself completely unto the Supreme Lord, and in that process of worshipping the Supreme Lord, one is bhajan apakvo. Pakva means it is usually used for food, that it is completely, what is it? It is completely ready and prepared, half cooked, it's completely cooked. But his bhajan kriya, his devotional service is apakva. Apakva means it is not completely ready, it is still in immature state. And in that state, even if there is any fall down, patet tato yadi. Versus, he compares these people versus those people, yatra ko va abhadram abhut amushakim. That those people who are completely following Swadharma, if these people who are just trying to surrender themselves to the Supreme Lord, and because of their apakva bhajan kriya, they fall down eventually, There is no abhadram, there is no inauspiciousness, there is no loss. Even if such people in their attempt, they don't meet success in the first go itself. Kovartha apto bhajatam swadharmataha. Versus these people, if we consider swadharmata, those people who are perfectly discharging the occupational duty, even if their discharge of the occupational duties is perfect, but they don't reach to the platform of bhajan, they don't reach the platform of devotional service to Supreme Lord, then it is of no use for such perfect materialist versus even an imperfect devotee. So imperfect fallen devotee, he still stands in a better position of life compared to the so-called materialist who are perfect in their discharge of the duties, but that discharge of the duties, they have not come to the platform of devotional service to Lord Vasudev. So we'll read the translation. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature state. Yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. So a non-devotee, perfect he may be, he is still not successful versus an unsuccessful devotee who may be at an immature state and results in his falling down. So let's go through Srila Prabhupada's purport and then we check few examples. As far as duties of the mankind are concerned, there are innumerable duties. Every man is duty bound not only to his parents, family members, society, country, humanity, other living beings, the demigods, etc., but also to the great philosophers, poets, scientists, etc. So in the beginning part of Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 1, while Arjuna is giving various reasons to Lord Krishna for not fighting, this particular part also comes up. How one is, by very birth, one is indebted naturally to all these great personalities, including our forefathers, because of whom we have got this human form of life, including the society in which we grow, including to the humanity, other living entities, specifically the great sages, because of whom we have got the scriptures, the devatas, which govern the material affairs, because of which we are able to live in this particular material world, as well as the great philosophers, poets, scientists, and so on. So there are all different types of debts that a person inherits just by taking birth on this earthly planet. But it is explained that all these debts are invariably taken care of if we surrender ourselves to the Supreme Lord. Immediately, these debts are taken care. And if we don't surrender, then even if we are a perfect being following all the material rules and regulations, but we don't surrender unto the Supreme Lord, then that debt remains unpaid. We remain indebted to all these social obligations. So if one does so means surrenders unto the Supreme Lord and becomes successful in the discharge of his devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, it is well and good. But it so happens sometimes that one surrenders himself unto the service of the Lord by some temporary sentiment, and in the long run, due to so many other reasons, he falls down from the path of service by undesirable association. So even if it happens that he begins because of some sentimental reason and then is not able to complete devotional service. In fact, this was also the question asked by Arjuna to Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. What happens to those who take up devotional service but ultimately are not able to finish it? And that's where Krishna recites that verse, Niha Vikramana Shosti, in order to assure Arjuna that even a small advancement on this path can save a person from the greatest danger. And there are so many examples we have seen in our discussion so far, including Gajendra, including Maharaj Bharat, who needed to take up a birth as an animal, but still he was saved, including Maharaj Duga. Maharaj Duga's example comes for a different purpose, basically to show the fallacies in pious material activities, how it can lead to great difficulties. In this particular purport, Srila Prabhupada also gives few examples, including that of Maharaj Chitraketu, including of Ajamel, so on and so forth. So typically out of this example, we will go bit into detail about Maharaj Chitraketu's example. And as we learn from Canto 6 of Srimad Bhagavatam, that Maharaj Chitraketu, he had the sovereignty of the entire world. He was the sovereign king of the entire world, and nothing was lacking in his life, but still he was unhappy because he did not have a child. And then subsequently one time, Narad Muni and Angira Muni happened to visit Maharaj Chitraketu and ask him about his well-being. And Chitraketu Maharaj basically admits his incompleteness in life because of not having a son to inherit the kingdom, whatever great kingdom that he has. And Narad Muni promises him a son with a condition that the same child will become the cause of his pleasure and great sorrow as well. And Chitraketu Maharaj feels that what can be the sorrow? At the most, the child may be a bit naughty, bit disobedient, but we will manage that. Let us have at least a child. And finally, by the mercy of Narad Muni and Angira Muni, Chitraketu's one of his multiple queens that he had, she begets a child. But subsequently, the other queens, the stepmother of the child, they become very insecure that now the king will only attend to that particular queen which has begotten the child, and they feel insecure. They poison the child and the child is killed, and the king is in great distress, much more than what he was when he did not have a child originally. And again, Narad Muni and Angira Muni come to check upon King Chitraketu, and Narad Muni, by his spiritual potency, brings the child back to life, and the child starts preaching to his parents. And basically, when Narad Muni offers the child, if you want to continue in this kingly opulence, growing up as a prince, the child completely does not accept that proposal. He rejects that proposal, and he specifically asks Narada Muni, "My dear sir, can you tell me which specific set of parents you are talking about? Because so many lifetimes I have had, and in each of these lifetimes I have had new set of parents, a new set of father and mother. And now that I am progressing, I need to progress towards my journey towards the lotus feet of the Lord. I want to continue that progression and don't want to get stuck in this particular body." So the child rejects the proposal of having a very lavish, luxurious life as the prince which was offered by Narada Muni. And seeing all this, Chitraketu Maharaj comes to his senses that this particular preaching by the child, it completely transforms Chitraketu Maharaj, and he becomes a liberated person. He becomes elevated to the position of a Vidyadhar. So basically, this particular second photo that we are seeing, although I don't know whether this photo is clear, on top we can see a celestial flying plane. And in that celestial flying plane, we see Maharaj Chitraketu, who is accompanied by several heavenly damsels who are his consorts in the planet of the Vidyadharas, in one of the heavenly planets. And he has the ability to fly anywhere he wants. And here, Chitraketu Maharaj as a Vidyadhar is flying in the sky, and his plane comes near Kailash, and he happens to see Lord Shiva talking about preaching Srimad Bhagavatam, explaining Srimad Bhagavatam, specifically the concept of renunciation, to great sages, including Narada Muni, Vyasa, and all other great sages, and having Mother Parvati sitting on his lap. So Chitraketu Maharaj wants to glorify the position of Lord Shiva, that who other than Lord Shiva can do this, talk about renunciation, at the same time have his wife seated on his own lap. So he was trying to glorify Lord Shiva But that glorification offended Mother Parvati because she seemed to think that inadvertently Chitraketu Maharaj is being critical of Lord Shiva, that how can he speak about Srimad Bhagavatam and about renunciation while having his wife seated on his own lap. And this misunderstanding between Mother Parvati's side, she curses Chitraketu to take the body of a demon. And Chitraketu Maharaj is very submissive, although based on his spiritual stature, he could have counteracted that curse by Mother Parvati, but he chooses not to and completely surrenders to Mother Parvati's wish and begs forgiveness. And subsequently, Lord Shiva glorifies such great devotees of the Lord to Mother Parvati that whether they are in heaven, hellish planets, they always remain equipoised and engaged in remembering Lord Krishna. So subsequently, Chitraketu Maharaj in the third photo, he gets the body of a demon. What is his name? This demon's name?
Vritrasur.
Vritrasur. Yes, Vritrasur. And Srimad Bhagavatam glorifies Vritrasur. It doesn't call Vritrasur as Vritrasur. Srimad Bhagavatam refers Shri Vrata Uvacha. Whenever his prayers, his teachings are mentioned, it doesn't say Vritrasur, it says Shri Vrata Uvacha, because Srimad Bhagavatam glorifies Vritrasur as the devotee of the Lord, although being in the body of a asura, in the body of a demon. So Vritrasur, subsequently we know that how he preaches Lord Indra on having faith in the prophecy that he has got the weapon to kill himself, to kill Vritrasur, and then encourages Indra with the process of how he should go about killing Vritrasur, killing himself. And subsequently, the result is, although Indra becomes victorious in the battle, Vritrasur, after being so-called defeated in the battle with Indra, he goes back home, back to Godhead, and Indra continues to remain in this material planet. So Prabhupada gives this example in the purport to explain how a devotee of the Lord, sometimes we see that there are setbacks, sometimes we see that he has to even take the body of an animal or even that of a demon. But a devotee is most concerned about being able to remember the Lord and is not concerned with anything else. Even if there is delay or eternally, of course, that is a very high stage, we cannot imitate that. But there are great devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, Vasudev Dutt, who prayed to remain in this material world or even having to go to hellish planets and suffer there eternally, requesting the Lord to please take the conditioned souls in this world back home, back to Godhead, and transfer their karma to them. So that is the mentality of a devotee. He is only concerned about being able to remember the Lord, but not concerned about his own material welfare, but he is very compassionate towards everything else. And Narad Muni, coming back to this verse, text 17, is glorifying the path of devotional service, that even if there are setbacks in the life of such devotees, eventually Krishna makes sure that these devotees, they go back home, back to Godhead. There is also a very wonderful line in one of Srila Prabhupada's purports. Maybe some of you can Google it and try to search exactly. The line states that the glorious is that devotee who never leaves the service of his master. And more glorious is that master who, even when such servant sometimes inadvertently leaves his service, he drags the servant by his hair and again brings him back to the path of devotional service. That means even if sometimes we forget Lord Krishna's devotional service, if we have rendered service to him sincerely even once, he will not forget that. He will constantly remember that, and he will make sure that how much ever fallen condition of life we get into, he will make sure that we get reinstated in our devotional progress and ultimately go back home, back to Godhead. So maybe we'll go through this particular purport and then we will take any questions, comments by any devotees. Hare Krishna. Harsha Shok. Yes. So Aishwarya Mataji has given the name of the child of Maharaj Chitraketu, Harsha Shoka. Any devotee would like to read through the purport? Hare Krishna. Rohini Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, ma'am.
Developing faith and conviction in bhakti. Progress in bhakti is credited forever, no loss even in fall down. Miseries and mixed happiness are two features of material life, and they are obtained in Brahma Loka and in other lokas also. They are obtained in the life of demigods and also in the life of dogs and hogs. The miseries and mixed happiness of all living beings are only of different degree and quality. But no one is free from the miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease. Similarly, everyone has his destined happiness also. No one can get more or less of these things simply by personal endeavors. Even if they are obtained, they can be lost again. One should not, therefore, waste time with these flimsy things. One should only endeavor to go back to Godhead. That should be the mission of everyone's life. SP 1.5.18 purport. Prabhupada.
Thank you, Mataji. See, Srila Prabhupada's purport, he has chosen the word so carefully. He says miseries and mixed happiness. That means the so-called happiness which one can experience for a while in this material world. It is never a pure happiness. It is always mixed with miseries, intermittent. And this so-called mixed happiness is not, we are not going to lose it even if we want to pursue the material path, materialistic path subsequently. It's not going to go anywhere, the whatever happiness we are destined to get. Even if we go to the lower forms or higher forms, we will get whatever material happiness we are destined to get. So it's not going to get lost anywhere. On the other hand, if we pursue the path of spiritual life, then that would really be very, very special, as in that can give us a credit of spiritual advancement, of eternal benefit, and take us ultimately to the topmost destination. So on this particular note, how the progress in spiritual life is Shashwat, it is eternal. We will have a group activity now, and devotees basically would need to go through these three verses. All three verses are important, 17th, 18th, and 19th, which have a common theme about developing our faith and conviction in the process of devotional service by referring to various examples Srila Prabhupada has given in the purport. One example we saw in detail, Chitraketu Maharaj. So from these three verses, translations and purports, please choose an inspiring quote or inspiring one particular application, one or more from these three verses, which can increase our faith and conviction in the process of Krishna consciousness, which we can apply in our own life. So is the exercise clear, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? We have to refer to these three verses, translations and the purports, and see what we can learn to build our conviction in spiritual life. Any question on the exercise, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? All of you have Srimad Bhagavatam in front of you. Either book copy, preferably. If not, then online copy. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhu,
Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhu, can you restate again the group exercise?
Okay. So what we need to do, we need to go through three verses, P.S. Murthy Prabhuji. We have to go through text 17, 18, and 19 from Canto 1, Chapter 5. And text 17 we just saw, we just read a while ago, that how an imperfect devotee is still in a better position compared to a perfect materialist. So we will go through this verse as well as two next verses to jot down, to discuss those points which can help us build conviction in Krishna consciousness, why we should continue in Krishna consciousness. So we have to come up with salient points from these verses, important points. Is it clear, P.S. Murthy Prabhuji?
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So let me see the number of devotees. We have quite a few devotees. So we'll make 4 groups, and each group can present in a minute or 2. But my request is each devotee please go through these purports and be active in your contribution to the group. Okay, even if the point is repeated, it is fine, not a loss at all. But at least by that we will go through thoroughly through the purport and have a churning of our thoughts. Hare Krishna. So let me make the breakout rooms. We will have about, since there are 3 verses and purports are a bit long, we will have about 12 to 14 minutes for each group to go through the purports and then discuss. So around spend 7-8 minutes to go through the purports and 5 to 6 minutes in discussion. And then we conclude in the main room. So 1 second, breakout rooms. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mamta Mataji, Devika Mataji, Mannat Mataji, Rasaragini Mataji, Shubham Prabhu, and Shama Gopika Mataji. Hare Krishna, Murli Prabhu, Gita Mataji, you had sufficient time to go through, or was it a rush?
No, Prabhuji, I think it was good enough.
Oh,
It was
okay.
good enough. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Prabhuji, if you want, I can start it. Yeah.
Let all the devotees
Allah
join.
the team is jamming.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, Murli Prabhu, which group you were part of?
Good question.
Wait, I
I
can
was-
check. I can check
I was
here.
I was with Venkat Narsa Prabhu,
And,
then
okay. Group one.
Ratna Gosai Mataji.
Okay,
Yeah.
group one. Okay, fine. And Prabhuji's Mataji, before we started the group activity, I mentioned you about one quote. So here is that particular quote from Chaitanya Charitamrita Antelila, where it is mentioned, if by chance a servant falls down and goes somewhere else, glorious is that master who captures him and brings him back by the hair. That means even if we forget Krishna, as long as we have rendered sincerely devotional service to him, even for once, he will reinstate us. He will bring us back on the path of spiritual progress. So we'll start now with group one. So Murli Prabhuji and any other devotee from group one who I should pin here.
I can start, Prabhuji, but I will let everyone also
Sure,
add in.
sure. Okay, Prabhuji. 1 second. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
So we started with 17, 18, 19.
Mhm.
Okay. But one of the key parts of the 17 is that we have already discussed a lot about it right now in the class itself. Yeah.
Mhm.
And one of the things about this is even if who has material, a devotee who has forsaken material activities and then goes in the direction of devotional service, he gains a lot compared to those who are completely engaged in occupational duties. Yeah, even though they have achieved a lot on the physical plane. Okay, so there are two parts here, spiritual and physical, and that is the difference which we have to understand. And the examples given here of Chitraketu, you have very well examined. Yeah, and Vritrasura also. Yeah, Demon Vritrasura, though he is not a demon, but he is in his own. He was a Chitraketu in his past life, right? And also of the son of Harsha Shoka.
Harsha Shuk.
Harsha Shloka. That's what I wrote down, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
Who, like Prahalada, gave his father the spiritual knowledge and then gave him happiness, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Yes.
These are the points. Then when we go to this verse 18, yeah.
Mhm.
Now there are two parts here again, physical enjoyment and the personal enjoyment. Yeah. The physical and the spiritual enjoyment. Now, everyone, whatever be the loka you are in, when you're born, whichever be the loka, you always will go through the physical enjoyment part. Yeah, but it is at every stage of these lokas we forget about them. Yes, and therefore we forget about them. Therefore, we always think about physical happiness, but actually our happiness should be in the mental place. Now, I think the examples we gave here were that of can anyone help me with the examples I gave? I just forgot to write it down. Right, Ratna Gosain Mataji, you can. I think
Hare
we thought
Krishna
about
Prabhu.
Janak Maharaj. Janak Maharaj.
Janak Maharaj.
Achha,
Yes,
Janak Maharaj, Ambarish Prabhu, yes, and also
Yes.
about Parikshit Maharaj, who had all the opulences of a king, but still they lived a very austere life, and then they gained a lot of happiness and went thoroughly into it, Prabhuji. Yeah, these were the three examples we talked about. Yes. Then the last one. Now this last one is now this is the famous one verse where Bhagavad Gita also Bhagavan says that, even if you fall down, I'll take care of you. Yeah. So the examples discussed are pretty famous ones. Ajamila, we know that is the case. Yes. Then even Gajendra Moksha, where he was cursed and he became an elephant, but Lord came back and personally took his hand and took him to the Godhead, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Jadavarta.
Jadabharta also, Prabhuji. He lost his direction, yes, but the Lord gave him the ability to reach back to him, right? Yes, Prabhuji. I think.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Just one point here from the details that you mentioned, that yes, we should not pursue the pleasures at the physical plane, but we should pursue at the spiritual plane. At one point you mentioned about mental enjoyment. So devotee don't like to enjoy even at the mental platform, but at the spiritual platform. Rest is good, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Any other devotee from group 1 wants to share anything? Let me open. Devika Mataji, Ananda Prada Mataji, Mamta Mataji, Prema Priya Jayashri Mataji, Shailaja Mataji. Hare Krishna. Anyone, or Vandita Tunga Vidya Mataji?
Prabhuji, I was in room 3, Prabhu.
Group 3. Okay, fine. You can mention there when we come to group 3. Thank you all, Prabhuji's, Mataji's from group 1. Now we go to group 2. Any devotee I should pin here from group 2?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, pranams.
Hare Krishna, Adi Dev Gopesh. 1 second. Yes, Prabhuji, please go ahead.
Yeah, so in our group we discussed about that even in all the material planets, right from Satyaloka to the Pataloka, there is both like happiness and sadness. And we discussed even the Bhagavad Gita shloka, which Krishna says that the sadness and happiness comes like seasons. So the intelligent the wise don't get bewildered. And then we discussed about Harsha Shoka, that how starting he was happiness, and later when the other prince, when he was given poison, he was Chitraketu Maharaj felt sad. And then we also discussed that Neha Vipravanasisti Patravayu Salpa Dharmasya Trayate Mahatobaya, that one who endeavors on the path of, even one who does little bit on the path of devotion, he gets saved from the greatest danger.
Yes, Prabhuji.
And yeah, so this is basically we're discussing about the happiness and sadness. That this will never, that how much ever this material world, this will be there, and we should not get bewildered. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. If I missed, please add.
Yeah. Any
Hare
other devotees?
Hare
Yes.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Vipin Vilas.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. We have taken the example of Kunti Maharani also. Depending on our consciousness in the Krishna, so irrespective of the whatever the miseries in our life, our complete outlook will be different. So we have example of Kunti Maharani also we have discussed. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Any other point any devotee wants to share from group 2, from these 3 verses and purports which we can apply in our life? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Ishwari Murari Priya Mataji.
One who has forsaken the material occupations for the devotional service, sometimes he may fall down, but still he will recover, come up. There is no danger in falling down always. But one who is engaged in occupational duties completely, they do not gain anything. They don't come up in a devotional service.
Yes. Yes, so basically a devotee has nothing to lose even from the material enjoyment point of view. However, one who are strictly pursuing material enjoyment, they cannot come to devotional service on their own. So they will be stuck. Thank you, Ishwari Priya Mataji. Any other point? Hare Krishna. All right, we go to group 3. Who will be speaking from group 3?
Prabhuji, Ganesh, I'll start off, Prabhuji, and
Okay,
others will join, Prabhuji.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
With respect to the verse 17, it's like our like how our faith and conviction is increases is like towards like even if we take a small step towards Krishna consciousness, like Krishna takes, like it says that we take one step and Krishna gives us, takes 10 steps towards us. So even a small endeavor we take towards Krishna consciousness, it's like God helps us out there. And here, like as it is already cited, there is example of Bharat Maharaj, Chitraketu Maharaj, Ajamila. So they were practicing devotional service, though there were small mistakes from their end, but that was not forgotten, and that gets carried out in the next life also out there. So that is with respect to text 17, and text 18. It is like. I've like anything like happiness and distress, both are part of life. And this can be seen like with the example of the Pandavas themselves. Like they had the share of both the things, but still because they were in Krishna consciousness, or they were looking towards or they were in the path of righteous and towards Krishna, like they had the helping hand of Lord always in their life out there. And these are the 2 points out there.
Okay, so second point you mentioned is even if the devotee is in difficulty or materially speaking in an awkward situation, they will always have the helping hand of the Lord. They will never be alone. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. I think others can join in.
Yes. Any other devotees from group 3? Devika.
Prabhuji, may I answer?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Yes. Prabhuji, the devotees' realization that sense enjoyment and all material possessions are only impermanent, makes him endeavor to reach higher heights in Krishna consciousness, and he endeavors to go back to Godhead. So that realization at that stage is very important for a devotee.
Prabhu, add to that point, I think everybody's mission should be go back to the Godhead. His mission of everyone's life should be go back to the Godhead.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you, Devika Mataji. Usha Mataji, any other devotees from group 3 wants to mention any specific point from these verses, purports?
One more point, Prabhu, from text 19.
Yes, ma'am.
The fallen devotee is born in a good family. Anyhow, there's a chance of they forget the lotus feet of God because of their because they are less fortunate. But the devotees who born in a poor condition, they are more fortunate because they always remember Lord, the Godhead.
Yes.
So they, because of their helplessness, they are always thinking about it.
Yes, Mataji. So this is a very important point. Compared to favors shown by Krishna in various contexts, a devotee who is left completely helpless by the Lord is in more fortunate a situation because he doesn't have anybody else to take shelter of, compared to a person who is placed in Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe, in a very opulent family. They are favored, but their favor is considered much lesser than somebody who Lord puts in a completely desperate and helpless situation, where there is no one but only the Supreme Lord to take shelter of. Thank you, Mataji. Any other point. If not, we go to the final group, which is group 4. Any devotees from group 4?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I will
Hare
start
Krishna.
and then
Sadhatushta.
all the devotees can add.
Sure. 1 second.
Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji, please go ahead.
Yeah, Prabhuji. So these 3 verses gives us very good understanding of the importance of devotional service and how we can also understand this and rise in our sincerity in engaging in devotional service. So to begin with, the first shloka which we discussed is Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 shloka 40, which says Neha Vikramanasosti Pratyavayo na vidyate Sulpapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. So this clearly says somebody who has done little bit of devotional service in their life is relieved from greatest danger of falling down into animal kingdom. So at least we get a human life where we can continue our devotional service. So this is one thing. And second is the shloka from Bhagavad Gita 9.31, which says Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat chantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanini name bhaktya pranashyati. So here Krishna says, O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotees never perish. So this again is a very good thing, that whoever has engaged in devotional service and surrendered to Supreme Lord, he will not perish. He is always under the protection of the Supreme Lord. And some of the examples already other group devotees have already discussed. So one of the example was again Maharaja Bharat. So though he took a life of a stag, in next life with the mercy of Krishna, he remembers and he takes a human birth and continue his practices. And then 15.18, we understand that whatever the topmost material world you go, there is birth, death, and old age and disease. So one has to go through all these things. So they have to fall down. So they have to rise above this birth and death, vicious cycle of birth and death. And we learn from Bhagavad Gita also that many yogis through various Ashtanga Yoga, they continue to go to heavenly planets, enjoy. But what we understand is until and unless one who takes up devotional service, their life will not be perfect. And then 15.19, here we realize that even because of the temporary fall down, once he takes the birth, by the mercy of Krishna, he says such devotee will not be too inclined with the material attachments, because they have already tasted the nectar. They have told as rasagraha. So such devotees will automatically be inclined towards spiritual practice, and they further progress by the mercy of Krishna. So these were some of the topics we discussed. And also the orphan and rich son of rich man. What I could understand from this is like as an analogy, just like for a rich person's son, there is a capable father who is protecting. When we have surrendered to Krishna, Krishna is always protecting us than an orphan who is not dependent, or nobody is there to protect him. So these are few points, Prabhuji. So any other devotees can add from the group. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sadhatushta Prabhuji. Any other devotees from group 4 who would like to contribute? Sanjukta Mataji, Vivek Prabhu, Rajiv Sundur Prabhu, Rajashri Mataji, Divya Rukmini Mataji. All right. So this particular point, what Prabhuji mentioned, is very important. Yes, Divya Rukmini Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I just want to add one more shloka, in Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto. It's a description of that. It's a 5th canto, 8th chapter, 10th verse. It's a nonam hi arya sadhava ubashama sa shila kraba shubhadra evam vidharate swarthanabi gurutaran upachande. Yeah, it's a mention that I will read the purport. Even though one is in the renounced order, one who is advanced certainly feels compassion for suffering living entities. One should certainly neglect his own personal interests, although they may be very important to protect one who has surrendered. So this also is a mention in Prabhupada's some of the lectures for the same shlokas. Talabhyade dukkha that's a 1.5.18 shloka. He explained the same shloka in that purport. Just want to explain that also, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare
Can you mention in one plain statement, Mataji, what is the message we take out of this?
It's in purport he's explaining that Maya is very strong, but people will show compassion to their people, but still they have to continue with their surrendered. To protect, one has surrendered to the Lord. I think I this is the same. I don't know. I didn't read the full. I just
Okay,
show the
let me
shloka.
just
That's
read this again. Even though
Yeah.
one is in the renounced order, one who is advanced certainly feels compassion for the suffering living entities. One should certainly neglect his own personal interest, although they may be very important, to protect one who has surrendered. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, is the first group discussion over?
Yes,
Oh,
Mataji.
Unfortunately, I was not able to hear and unmute myself. May I share some of my points?
Yes, Mataji.
If there is time, I'll do it, Prabhuji. Yeah. I felt my observations were one should not be obsessed only with sticking to his occupational duty at the cost of quality of the devotional service to the Lord. You should worry about that. Example is, of course, Bharat Maharaj. He was such a great devotee, but at the end, remembering the stag, he, of course, unfortunate in not being able to reach the Supreme Lord in the first chance. I have a conviction that Lord will definitely lift me by chance I fall like Ajamila. That's a conviction that I got from this verse. And we cannot get benefit without real good work. For instance, mechanically landing on the planets, on the moon planets and all that, no use. You should be doing real good work to deserve what we actually should be getting from the Lord. Example, the birth of a child in an affluent and a poor family. That's all I've explained. I will not go much into it. The positions in Brahmaloka and Patala Loka, they're also changeable. If we do, like Chitraketu Maharaj example you explained to us, if we do good work, even in Patala Loka, we can be definitely not very discomfort. An example is Prahlada Maharaj also, who when put into the boiling hot oil also, he didn't suffer. He came out cheerful. The permanent life of bliss and bliss has to be understood. They're just as miseries and are destined, the quota of happiness is also destined for each of us. So we only have to aim that we keep on doing the good work and wait for for Lord's benedictions. Now, in becoming Rasagraha, tasting the sweetness of the Lord's lotus feet, we get rid of all the material enchantments. So we should aim towards that. A devotee never becomes a fallen karmi because he is reformed by chastisement. And between being born into a good family in the next life and getting chastised by the Lord in this lifetime, the latter is preferred because it's possible that even by being born in a good family next life, I might forget the Lord for some reason. But by chastisement by the Lord in this life, when I push to helplessness, I think I will be a better devotee. That's what I was. So I will not hereafter. Of course, even earlier I was not doing it. If there is suffering, I'll not crib about it. I think more the suffering, as Kunti Maharaj said, I'll welcome it and then face my life and be pleased to the God. That's it, Prabhuji. That's what I want to share.
Thank you, Mataji. Just one point here. You mentioned the word good work, and a devotee ideally is not attached to good work, bad work. We are attached to serving Krishna. Okay, because a good work without Krishna being in the center can again bind us and bring us again in this material world.
Prabhuji, really good work is only devotional service.
Yes, only devotional service.
Only that, yeah.
Yeah. Other material good work without Krishna is not useful. So, Hare Krishna. So I guess more or less we have covered everything from different devotees. Thank you all very much. Here in the last verse, it is mentioned, once a devotee has tested the test of Krishna consciousness, he won't feel pleasure in anything in this material world, and he will continue to long for that pleasure that he got from serving Lord Krishna. So this is very inspiring. Other examples we saw. And a devotee's suffering is different than a karmi's suffering. A karmi is suffering because of laws of nature. For devotee, Krishna personally manages his account or her account. And we saw that how a devotee who is being placed in a helpless situation is being shown a great favor by the Lord, because a devotee has got nobody else to take shelter of them in that case. So we proceed to the next section, which is text 20th onwards. 1 second. So after explaining to Srila Vyasadeva about glories of devotional service, vis-a-vis the occupational duties, now Narad Muni in this text 20th till 22nd, he explains to Vyasadeva to specifically focus on glories of the Lord. So we won't go much into the detail of the purport here. We will simply go through the translations. Any devotee who wants to read these 3 translations, just the English translations?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can I?
Hare Krishna, Devika Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
Lord, a personality of Godhead, is himself this cosmos, and still he is aloof from it. From him only has this cosmic manifestation emanated. In him it rests, and unto him it enters after annihilation. Your good self knows all about this. I have given only a synopsis.
Yeah. Next text.
Your goodness has perfect vision. You yourself can know the Supreme Personality of Godhead because you are present as the plenary portion of the Lord. Although you are birthless, you have appeared on this earth for the well-being of all people. Please therefore describe the transcendental pastime of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, more vividly.
Thank you. So this particular point, last statement of the translation, please therefore describe transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, more vividly. We had stressed this word in our last discussion, anuvartante. Anuvartante means repeated glorification, so that the point is not lost by anyone in the any other focus area, including the 4 Purusharthas. So describe this as an exclusive thing, as a repeated thing. Last one, Mataji, 22nd.
Yes, sir. Learned circles have positively concluded that the infallible purpose of the advancement of knowledge, namely austerity's study of the Vedas, sacrifice, chanting of hymns, and charity, culminate in the transcendental description of the Lord, who is defined the choice poetry.
Yes. So this, we have a similar verse even in Bhagavad Gita, where it is described how all these other good works in material context, whether one does yajna, dana, tapasya, austerity, charity, and sacrifice, then all these benefits are automatically achieved if one simply renders devotional service to the Lord. So this verse comes in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where it is mentioned. Please, let's try to recite this together. Please recite. Vedeshu yaggeshu tapassu chaiva.
Vedeshu
Yagneshu
tapassu
chaiva. Daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam.
Daneshu yajnaphalam pradishtam.
Atteti tat sarvam idam viditva.
Atteti tatsarvam idam viditva.
Yogi parasthanam upaiti chadyam.
Yogi parasthanam upaiti chadyam.
So the benefits of all this, including studying the Vedas, performing the sacrifice, performing the austerities, giving the charity, All these pious credits will be available for one who is engaged in devotional service. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing activities, giving charity, or pursuing Hare Krishna, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all this, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. So, Narad Muni is telling Srila Vyasadeva that whatever other paths you wanted to let the humans being aware of and get benefited from, all those benefits those people are not going to lose if we simply guide them on the path of devotional service. So they will have all of these benefits plus the topmost benefit of achieving Krishna if you talk about exclusive devotional service. And we will see some parts of the these purports. 1 second. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada mentions that although formally Narad Muni is guiding Srila Vyasadeva, we should not forget his position as the literary incarnation. That means Srila Vyasadeva is a plenary portion, not different from the Lord himself. So it is not that he was in ignorance, he was completely qualified, but just like Arjuna, Lord is arranging the situation so that we learn our lessons. So Vyasadeva as such is capable and fully cognizant of what needs to be given, but he is putting himself in this awkward situation so that we learn the lesson and we surrender to the representative of the Lord to get enlightenment. But because he means Vyasadeva, but because he is doing the work of an Acharya, he has taught us by his own conduct that one must have a spiritual master even though he be God himself. And now we come to the last section planned today, which is quite extensive, but very interesting and inspiring, which is after explaining to Srila Vyasadeva, Narad Muni has explained about exclusive glorification of the Supreme Lord. Yat uttama shloka guna anuvarnanam. This anuvarnanam is the word we had discussed a while ago. That means repeated glorification of the Supreme Lord. That anuvarnanam, Narad Muni gives a case study to Srila Vyasadeva in terms of his own past life, how he came in touch with great devotees of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Rohini Mataji, Devika Mataji, I'm just making you co-host, so help me please.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, this repeated glorification of the Lord, if we do, how that surcharged spiritual atmosphere will help us uplift ourselves to the platform of devotional service is being explained by Narad Muni in the last part of this chapter by giving his own personal example. So, 1 second. Yeah, sorry, this particular point I had also planned to cover before we go to Narad Muni's example. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport to text 22 that all other different skills and talent a person may have, either in the subject matter of art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, and all other branches of knowledge, should be wholly and solely applied in the service of Lord, which means any other branch of knowledge that Vyasadeva has taught, including astrology, astronomy, Ayurveda, medicine, and Vastu Shastra, all these different branches of knowledge which are part of the Vedas, we should use them in service to Lord Krishna. Then it will be successful in its purpose. And here we have shown example of so many devotees who are engaged based on their skills in serving Lord in different manner. Like I'll just explain one of these examples. Say in the, you can watch a documentary which is available on YouTube, ISKCON Mega Kitchen, which has been produced by National Geographic and which was a huge hit across. So there they have studied the ISKCON's mega kitchen, especially which is set up in various yatras, and devotees have used various novel concepts which they have learned as part of their engineering. For example, in this photo that is shown here, you can see the rail tracks which are built using the pipes, iron pipes. So these rail tracks are used to carry a trolley with these heavy pots of prasadam. And some of these pots are so heavy, I haven't really shown the photo of a really big pot, but at one time 10 people can even sit and take bath. These pots are so big. So to carry these pots manually is very, very difficult and tedious. So devotees have used engineering concept like using the pulleys to lift the pot, where even 2 or 3 devotees, by pulling the chain using the concept of pulley, they can lift this pot which is 700, 800 liters in its size. Similarly, we also see here in Singapore congregation, we have a Mataji, a devotee lady, who has professional qualification in terms of interior decoration. And this particular Mataji is the in charge of flower decorations for all the festivals throughout the year. So this particular devotee is utilizing her professional qualification to serve Krishna in one way or another. Or we see this particular devotee is maybe using a welding in the service to Lord Krishna, or this particular devotee using the stitching skills in service to Lord Krishna. So the point is, whatever branch of knowledge we have got expertise in, either it is art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, and so on and so forth, the perfection of that knowledge is if we utilize it in service to Lord Krishna. We'll discuss one more example and then we proceed to the next part. We see the example of George Harrison. I have not mentioned here. George Harrison, he was the famous Beatle, part of the Beatles group in 1960s and 70s. And it is explained that he was so famous and being influenced by Srila Prabhupada's teachings, he wanted to dedicate his own life to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission. And Srila Prabhupada stopped him from giving up his own profession. Srila Prabhupada inspired him to compose his albums in glorification to Lord Krishna. And subsequently, it is explained that since Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, George Harrison was the person who inspired maximum number of people to know Hare Krishna Mahamantra and to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So this way, whatever branch of knowledge we may have specialization in, we can always use it in Lord Krishna's service. Murli Prabhuji, you wanted to share something on this? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji, about the technological part.
Yes, Prabhu.
The kitchen in Jagannath Puri, Prabhuji, it caters to lakhs of people every day, but it is built in a perfect chemical engineering program where the heat conservation is the maximum. Okay,
yes.
That's a very beautiful example of actually engineering marvel.
Using the science, yes, Prabhuji.
Using the science for lakhs of people. I mean, that way they save thousands of rupees, lakhs of rupees in savings.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. So just to elaborate on this, what Prabhuji mentioned in Jagannath Puri, the bhoga is cooked for the Lord in earthen pots, which are kept one above another in 9 layers. And each and every food in each of these pots, layers of pots, is cooked perfectly, starting with the top pot first and then coming to the bottom one. So this is again an engineering marvel. Basically, any branch of knowledge which should be used in Krishna's service. So now we come to the last part of this particular chapter, and which is very important. So let's see, we are able to cover it properly. Where Narad Muni is talking about Yat Uttama Shloka Guna Anuvarnanam, how a very spiritually surcharged atmosphere can completely transform and uplift person from any strata of life, even from the most fallen condition. And to explain this, Narad Muni gives his own case study. So in this particular part of Srimad Bhagavatam in the 5th canto, Narad Muni specifically begins from the second photo, what we have shown here. where he mentions about Brahmaji's earlier day, earlier Kalpa, when Narad Muni was born as the son of a maidservant. But Srimad Bhagavatam itself gives us history of Narad Muni even before he being born as the son of a maidservant. So it is explained in the 7th canto, chapter 5, how Narad Muni previously was born as a Gandharva, as a resident of a higher planetary system within this material world. So Gandharvas typically, they are like Devatas, but very specialized in singing abilities, singing skills. So Narad Muni was a very great singer. One important caution before we go into the details of this episode, that just like any other case study, we will learn our lessons, we will take our inspirations, but we should not judge great personalities. If we judge them, then we will fall in our devotional practice. But if we learn our lessons and still maintain our reverence, respect for these personalities, then we will benefit. So please don't judge great personality like Narad Muni based on what we are going to discuss. Know for him for what he is now. Don't judge him from the past. That is not going to help us. So Narad Muni, it is explained in Bhagavatam 7 Canto. This is explained by Narada Muni himself, that he was a Gandharva, a Devata who is very expert in singing abilities. And one time when this Narad Muni as a Gandharva, his name was Upabarhana. So when he was as a Upabarhana attending a special gathering of all the Prajapatis. Prajapatis are the initial children of Lord Brahma, who are very empowered personalities and empowered to procreate Krishna conscious progeny. So they are the personalities who are responsible for generating great populace of human beings and other population also, other living entities, assisting their father Lord Brahma. So when Upabarhana Gandharva was in the assembly of all the Prajapatis in this function, accompanied by all his female associates from the Gandharva planet. So it is explained that Upabarhana, rather than considering the context of that particular function, which was to glorify the Lord, he started singing songs apparently which were material, in order to please his consorts, in order to please his female friends who were there in the assembly. And the Prajapatis, they felt it very odd that this particular function is meant to glorify the Supreme Lord, but this Gandharva, Upabarhana, he is having a Shudra-like mentality that he wants to please his girlfriends in this holy assembly. So the Prajapatis cursed Upabarhana, Gandharva, to be born as a Shudra, as a son of a Shudra maidservant, to justify his mentality that he was carrying in that assembly. And Upabarhana immediately felt remorseful, but at the same time he didn't protest. He accepted the punishment meted out by the Prajapatis. And in the second life, this Upabarhana, as we can see in the photo, he was born as the child, as the son of a maidservant, staying in a place in forest, which was then subsequently visited by the great sages, the Bhakti Vedantas, during the 4 month of monsoon season, during the Chaturma season. So I hope Prabhuji's, Mataji's, we are not going too quick. We'll go through the verses, but the background I just quickly explained as a background to what we are going to discuss. Any questions so far on Narad Muni's life?
Prabhuji, what is the meaning of Upabarhana?
What is the meaning?
Yes, Prabhuji.
I have to check. I don't know, Mataji. I have to check. That is just given as the name, but it is mentioned that he was very expert singer, and then he tried to sing material songs for the pleasure of his consorts.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So now let's go to Srimad Bhagavatam to start going through the verses. Text 23 onwards. So these again we will go bit quickly so that we are able to devote more time on Narad Muni's qualities. So please try to repeat. Text 23. Any devotee would like to recite who has not recited so far? Hare Krishna. Ratna Gosai Mataji. Ratnanga, what is your initiated name, Mataji? Ratnanga?
Radhika Ratnanga Devidasi.
Radhika Ratnanga Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Aham Puratita Bhave Bhavam Muni.
Aham Puratita Bhave Bhavam Muni.
Dasyastu Kashyashchana Vedavadinam.
Dasyastu Kaschana Vedavadinam.
Nirupito Balakaiva Yoginam.
Nirupito Balakaiva Yoginam.
Sushrusane Pravasi Nirvikshatam.
Sushrusane Pravasi Nirvikshatam.
Hare Krishna.
Translation.
O Muni, in the last millennium, I was born as the son of a certain maid servant engaged in the service of a Brahmanas who were following the principles of Vedanta.
420.
When they were living together during the 4 months of the rainy season, engaged in the
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, please mute so we can hear. Mataji, please read again.
O Muni, in the last millennium, I was born as a son of a certain maid servant engaged in the service of a Brahmanas who were following the principles of Vedanta. When they were living together during the 4 months of a rainy season, I was engaged in their personal service.
Thank you. Thank you. So here Narada Muni is beginning to narrate his own story. I have missed one verse which I wanted to go through more detail. 1 second. Yeah, so this particular verse, we will also revisit one verse which is before the verse which Radhika Ratnanga Mataji just recited, which is text 22. Lalita Vinodini Mataji, you want to go through this verse?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is which number, Prabhuji?
This is 1522. Hang on, Mataji. I want to see this verse. Dante Adruta Krudanke. Which verse is this? Is not 22. 1 second. Anyone sees this verse?
23, right?
24. Sorry, my mistake. 24. Next verse, Mataji. You can recite this.
Yes, Prabhuji. Should I start?
Yes.
Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Te Mayapeta Khila Chapale Arbake.
Te May Apeta Chapale Bhake.
Dante Adrita Kridanake Anuvartini.
Dante Druta Kridanake Anuvartini.
Chakrupam. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Chakru Kripam Yadyapi Tulya Darshanaha.
Chakru Krupam Yadyapi Tulya Darshanaha.
Shru Samana Munayo Alpabhasini.
So, thank you, Mataji. In this particular verse, the qualifications, the qualities of Narada Muni, even as a 5-year boy, are mentioned. And which are those qualities? First quality that is mentioned is Dante. Dante means he had complete control over his senses. He had complete control over his senses. Then Adruta Krudanke. That means he was, although as a young boy, he was not very accustomed or attracted to playing sports. So just like ordinary children who are very much attracted and who have a tendency for enjoying sports, Narad Muni was very grave and he didn't have specific attraction for the sports. Anuvartini, he was very obedient. to whatever the sages mentioned, he was just like a devotee, just like a sponge. So he could immediately absorb whatever the sages were teaching, either through their instructions or even through their examples. He was very obedient. Alpa Bhashini, that means he did not speak more than what was required. So these all qualities seem very strange in a small young boy. But Narad Muni, as a son of a maidservant, he was blessed with these qualities. And two qualities of the Bhakti Vedantas are mentioned. They had Krupam, which means they had causeless mercy for each and every person, even if he or she is fallen. Even for the fallen condition, they were very, very merciful. And Tulya Darshanaha, they were very impartial by nature. So in this regard, it is mentioned that sometimes the great sages, they are merciful to a person based on the person's good qualities. Say, for example, when Durvasa Muni visited Kunti when she was a young child, still unmarried, then her father, he engaged Kunti in the service to Durvasa Muni, knowing her caliber and knowing the risk of engaging anybody else in Durvasa Muni's service. Because Durvasa Muni, if he becomes angry, immediately the person is gone. There is a very likelihood the person can get a curse from him, can attract a curse. So this type of mercy by Durvasa Muni upon Kunti Maharani is a mercy which is dependent on the good quality of the servant. So Durvasa Muni showed his krupa based on the good quality and qualification of Kunti Devi. But in this case, the Bhakti Vedantas were not like that. The Bhakti Vedantas were very compassionate, even if the servant is not specifically qualified, as long as he is engaged in some service, they were very, very merciful. So they did not really bother about the qualification of the servant, like the first example that we saw. But on the other hand, Narada Muni is explained as already possessing all these good qualities. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains the nature of the causeless mercy of the Bhakti Vedantas. Why it is explained that they were very causeless in their giving their mercy? Because in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that they initiated Narada Muni even before he displayed these qualities to them in his service, either being a very alpabhashi, not speaking much, being very obedient, not being attached to frivolous sportive activities. And what was the first part? And having complete control over his senses. So these Bhakti Vedantas, they showed their compassion on Narada Muni even before he demonstrated these qualities to them. That's why their mercy was considered as causeless mercy. And because of this mercy, subsequently these qualities manifested in Narada Muni, and because of Narada Muni demonstrating these qualities through his service spirit, the Bhakti Vedantas granted further mercy upon Narad Muni. So this cycle kept on repeating, that Bhakti Vedanta showed some causeless mercy, Narada Muni rendered service to them using his exemplary qualities. Seeing those qualities, Bhakti Vedantas, they became more compassionate, and because of their compassion and more mercy, Narada Muni further advanced in his spiritual qualities, in his spiritual progress. So both of these were conducive and complementary to each other. The service by Narada Muni, qualities demonstrated by Narada Muni, and the quality of compassion by the great sages, the Bhakti Vedantas. So in this particular regard, all of you would remember that we had discussed about 14 stages of a devotee progressing in devotional service. All of you remember, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, in the second chapter? Hare Krishna.
Mahatseva.
No, I'm not asking to repeat, just I'm asking all of us remember that we had discussion.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, and the beginning of these 14 progressive stages started with the causeless mercy of the devotees. And we had discussed that how only by this causeless mercy a person gets an opportunity to serve the devotee. We had seen the example of Shukadev Goswami visiting a householder only till the time it takes to milk a cow. And by being at that householders, what was the purpose of Shukadev Goswami? Did he want any bhiksha?
Sanctifying
To
the
bless
house.
them.
Sanctify
Bless them.
the
Yes.
sanctify the house and the
Enlighten them. Yeah.
Correct.
inhabitants.
To sanctify the house and to enlighten the householders, to give them an opportunity that they could serve such a great soul, and by that service they will get upliftment in their own Krishna consciousness. So the first step we had seen was the great souls are very, very merciful upon the fallen conditioned souls. So we are going to see these qualities, all the 14 stages of progressive devotional service in Narad Muni's example, starting with Satam Krupam. Any questions, comments, Prabhuji's, Mataji so far? Hare Krishna. All right, we proceed to text 24, 25 onwards. In the purport to text 24, Srila Prabhupada mentions that typically any scripture, if we take based on Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's assessment, it teaches three specific items: the division of any scripture, either Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, any authorized scripture teaching devotional service can be done in three categories. First is the teachings, they relate to the sambandha, the relationship of a living entity with the Supreme Lord. Just like in Bhagavad Gita, we see starting from chapter 2 onwards, Lord Krishna teaches extensively about the relationship of a jiva as a part and parcel of Lord Krishna. So sambandha is explained. The next step is abhideya, which is the activities in that relationship, the activities of devotional service, how as a part and parcel, how we should render our service to Lord Krishna. So Krishna explains about how should be our activities, how we should gain knowledge and in that knowledge perform those activities, how we should develop the quality of being the quality of equanimity, being equipoised in different dual situations, different dualities in this material world. So all these are activities of devotional service which is categorized under abhideya. And third categorization is achieving our ultimate goal, which is reaching back home, back to Godhead, going back home, back to Godhead, reaching Krishna's lotus feet. So these three classifications of any scriptures, they stand out according to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Prabhuji, what's the third one? Sambandha, Videya,
Sambandha, Abhideya,
Prayojan.
and Prayojan.
Prayojan.
Yes, Prayojan. Okay, and not to be too much focused on the test, but any of you who are aspiring for initiation, this question is one of the basic questions every devotee should know about these three principles taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What is Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan? So this particular point I was mentioning, that how the Bhakti Vedantists, they were very compassionate on Narada Muni even before he showed those exemplary qualities. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, so the Vedantavadis initiated the boy even before he became self-controlled and was detached from the childish sporting, etc. But before initiation, he, the boy, became more and more advanced in discipline, which is very essential for one who wishes to make progress in the line. So that means the Bhakti Vedantis, they showed their compassion before Narad Muni demonstrating his exemplary qualities, and based on their compassion, Narad Muni further demonstrated those qualities, and the result was that Narad Muni quickly became advanced in these 14 stages of devotional service. Again, Prabhupada writes in the purport, without being self-controlled, that means the importance of a discipline for a spiritual practitioner. Without being self-controlled, without being disciplined, and without being fully obedient, no one can become successful in following the instructions of the spiritual master. And without doing so, that means without following the instructions of the spiritual master, no one is able to go back to Godhead. That's why a student is called in spiritual language as disciple. That means we should be very much disciplined and obedient to the instructions of our authorities, not just our spiritual master, but even in our Shiksha Gurus, our spiritual authorities. Because Krishna, we cannot force Krishna to appear and be achieved in our life by our own qualification. We can only please Krishna if we are very obedient to his own representatives. So these qualities are very important if you want to achieve Krishna. Now we go to the next verse, text 25. Any devotee would like to recite? Prabhuji, just allow me 5 to 7 extra minutes. We will try to conclude this portion if possible. Okay? So we are able to reach to a logical conclusion. Divya Rukmini Mataji.
Yeah.
Jai Shri Mataji, I will ask you next verse.
Okay, Prabhuji. Okay.
Okay, so let me go to the verse. 1 second. Mataji. 25. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Uchishthalepan anumodido dvijay.
Uchishthalepan anumodido dvijay.
Sagasma bhunje tadapasta kilpishay.
Sagasma bhunje tadapasta kilpishay.
Evam pravrittasya vishuddha chedasas.
Evam pravrittasya vishuddha chedasas.
Tadharma evatmaruji prajayate.
Translation.
Once only, by their permission, I took the remnants of their food, and by so doing, all my sins were at once eradicated. Thus, being engaged, I became purified in heart, and at that time, the very nature of the transcendentalist became attractive to me. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you. So here, Narada Muni is explaining different progressive stages, how he surrendered unto the Bhakti Vedantist, and by serving them by their holy association, how he quickly gained the transcendental position. So he took their remnants by their permission only one time, and by doing so, all his sins got eradicated. He became purified in heart, and he almost attained very same nature. He became attracted to very same nature like that of the Bhakti Vedantist. So in this regard, about the importance of completely being subservient to the great devotees of the Lord, there is a very famous verse by Prahlad Maharaj, where he mentions that unless they means all of us materialist persons, unless they smear upon their bodies the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnava who is completely freed from material contamination. Persons, now he's reflecting who are those persons. Persons very much inclined towards materialistic life, they cannot be attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, who is glorified by his uncommon activities. Only by becoming Krishna conscious and taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, in this way can one be freed from material contamination. So even here in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj is emphasizing the quality of being subservient, being obedient to the devotees of the Lord. Then we will be able to achieve Krishna. And how we should be subservient? He is explaining that unless we bathe our body with the dust of the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. So similarly, coming back to our episode of Narada Muni, we see that Narada Muni, he accepted Uchishta Lepan Anumodito. With their permission, he accepted the Uchishta, he accepted the remnants of the Prasadam which was honored by the Bhakti Vedantas. So we'll read one part of the purport. The Bhakti Vedantas, as above mentioned, were pure devotees, and the boy became infected with their qualities of purity by their association and by eating once the remnants of the foodstuffs taken by them. So although this particular word infection is usually used in negative connotation, but here in the purport we see Narada Muni has been infected by bhakti because of serving the Bhakti Vedantas and accepting the food that was honored by the Bhakti Vedantas, the prasadam. So it is explained for a devotee, three things are very, very potent for a pure devotee. One is the dust from their lotus feet is very potent. Second is the prasadam, which is honored by that particular devotee, is very potent by a pure devotee. And second is the water that has washed the lotus feet of a devotee. So these three things are considered very special, and we should not frivolously take it or forcibly take it from such devotees. Here, Narada Muni has taken it with their permission, with the Anumodita. Anumodita means with their Anumati, with their permission. Narada Muni has taken the Uchishta, has taken the Mahaprasad of the devotee. And we also see that whenever great sannyasis, spiritual masters visit temples, their Mahaprasad is also shared with the devotees, and in this particular mood we should accept this Mahaprasad. Then whatever is their transcendental loving qualities in service to Lord Krishna, they will appear in us also if we are in this mood. Hare Krishna. Adidev Gopesh Prabhu, you wanted to share something?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, I got reminded of a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Bhakta pada duliyara bhakta pada bhakta bhukta abhasheshati no mahabal.
Yes, Prabhuji. So again, in this particular verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita also, these three remnants of a devotee in terms of his remnants of prasadam that he has consumed, the pada dhuli, the dust from his lotus feet, and the water that has washed the lotus feet of a pure devotee. All these are very, very potent. So we proceed.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
Prabhu, I don't know. Prabhu, I heard one of the lecture that Sri Radhanath Swami Maharaj is in visiting the temple, one of the devotees' house. Actually, the host is not the disciple of Radhanath Swami Maharaj. Then he didn't go out to receive because most of the, if it is our Guru Maharaj, we will go directly to the waiting for him, and we are doing all the Padaseva, all these things. And but since the host is not from Radhanath Swami Maharaj disciple, so he didn't went out to receive the Guru Maharaj. So the Guru Maharaj assistant, when he came to the host's house, he asked the host. But actually, that's also one thing, Prabhu. So I don't know, is it from whoever it is, okay. So if it is any Guru Maharaj, anyone who is coming to, we are seeing, we are going for the class or like lectures, whatever it is. So they're also important for us, for not only our Guru Maharaj and their dust and their to do puja for them and their remnants, whatever it is, it's very important for us. I heard related to this sloga, one of the lecture for one of the devotee. So I just want to share that one. It's a Guru Maharaj, the seva to any of the Guru Maharaj, any of the senior acharyas.
Thank you,
I
Mataji.
just want to share this.
Thank you, Mataji. So we should be very broad-minded in serving Lord Krishna, sincere devotees, senior devotees, and representatives, irrespective of whether the devotee is our own spiritual master or spiritual masters, god brothers, god sisters, cousins, god cousins, and all. So basically, our criteria for respecting a devotee should be that devotee surrendered to Lord Krishna, and whichever walk of life he or she may be coming. But accepting these three, we should be very careful to accept it from the pure devotees. And we should not do this frivolously. We should not do this frivolously. We should do it in proper way. When the servants of those senior devotees, they give Mahaprasadan and all, then we can accept in this particular mood. So we proceed maybe another 4-5 minutes. Any devotee would like
I'll
to?
read, Prabhuji. May I read?
Yes, just read the translation, Mataji.
Only translation? Okay.
Yeah.
O Vyasadeva, in that association and by the mercy of those great Vedantas, I could hear them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna and then listen attentively. My taste was for hearing of the personality of Godhead increased at every step.
Yes.
Shloka not required, Prabhuji?
No, we have less time, Mataji. So I'll ask you shloka when it comes. Okay. Okay. So, and thus listening attentively, my taste for hearing of the personality of Godhead increased at every step. So Narada Muni, it is explained in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, daily, morning and evening, the Bhakti Vedantists, they used to discuss Krishna Katha. And Hare Krishna. And Narada Muni, he attentively served them, accepted their Mahaprasad, and also heard from them morning and evening about Krishna whenever they discussed. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada basically explains the importance of attentively serving and attentively hearing from the pure devotees of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada writes, by hearing the narrations of the pastimes of the Lord, one contacts directly the personality of Godhead. And as explained before, by hearing about the personality of Godhead from within, all accumulated sins of the mundane creature are cleared. Thus, being cleared of all sins, the hearer gradually becomes liberated from mundane association and becomes attracted to the features of the Lord. Narada Muni had just explained this by his personal experience. The whole idea is that simply by hearing about the Lord's pastime, one can become one of the associates of the Lord. And we will see subsequently through Narada Muni's own example, how he became an eternal associate of the Lord. So this particular episode that we are describing, despite all this as the background, Narada Muni still stands out as the Nitya Mukta, as the Nitya eternal associate of the Lord. He is not considered as the Sadhana Siddha, he is considered as the Nitya Siddha devotee. And we will see through this particular episode how Narada Muni achieved that particular position of being an eternal associate of the Lord. So I guess we would need some time to prepare for the group activity, which I had planned as the conclusion, but we are running slightly late. So let me tell you about the group activity, and all of you can come well read about these verses. So we will start our next discussion with a group activity, which will be to jot down the principles from the life of Srila Narada Muni, which we can consider for our own personal spiritual life as well as for the preaching application. So let me put it on the chat. All of you can note it down. And specifically to discuss this, we will refer to text 23 till 31. So Hare Krishna. Aishwarya Mataji has also shared the verse which Adidev Prabhuji quoted. Adidev Gopesh Prabhuji quoted. So, is the activity clear, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? Hare Krishna.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Narada Muni's life, it would take time for us if we really decide to go through each and every verse. So, we will maybe cover this as a group activity to start the next discussion, next session. And one more thing, let me stop the live stream once.